There's a kind of exhaustion no sleep can fix. A quiet emptiness, not loud, not dramatic, but persistent. It comes like morning mist over your soul. Soft. But it doesn't leave. I carried that weariness for years, without even realizing it. On the outside, everything looked perfect. The respected job. The beautiful house. The car others admired. I had done everything right. Graduated top of my class. Climbed the career ladder. Built a reputation. Got invited to speak at the kinds of conferences with polished name tags and expensive lunches. But no one saw the evenings I spent eating alone, staring at a white wall. No one heard the sighs I swallowed when the world went quiet. No one knew about the nights I woke in the dark, heart racing, with no idea why. And then one afternoon, the clock in my office stopped ticking. It didn't fall. It didn't break. It didn't run out of battery. It just stopped. The second hand froze, suspended midair. Like the universe had gently paused time to whisper. "Are you sure you're still alive?" I stared at that clock for 3 minutes. Everything around me kept moving. But something inside me collapsed in silence. In the weeks that followed, I started noticing things. I turned off my phone's sound at night for the first time in years. I looked longer at the barista who handed me my coffee. I stopped avoiding eye contact with strangers on the subway. Something was stirring. Not loudly, but undeniably. Then one morning, I walked into the office, opened my email, and stared at my quarterly goals. I felt my hand hover over the mouse. And I looked out the window. Clear sky. Stillness. And one question in my head. Is this really how I want to spend the rest of my life? I stood up quietly. Told no one. Walked out of the office as if I had just woken up from a long sleep. I didn't know where I was going. But I knew I could no longer stay. A few days later, I found myself deep in the northern woods, where phone signals die and GPS gives up trying to guide you. I found a small wooden cabin by a stream. No electricity. No schedules. No one calling me. "Sir?" At first, I didn't know what to do with the silence. It was vast. Too vast. It exposed everything I had buried, every fear, every regret, every suppressed ache. I realized something. I knew how to work. But I didn't know how to simply be. On the third morning, I picked up a fallen leaf near my feet. Brittle brown, curled at the edges. I set it gently on the stream and watched it float. No struggle. No effort. Just surrender. I watched it for a long time, drifting, turning, dancing with the current. And for the first time in years, I felt something lift inside me. I wasn't trying. I wasn't performing. I was simply present. And I whispered, "If this river can carry a dying leaf to where it belongs, maybe it can carry me too." My days slowed. I started cooking breakfast with both hands and all of my attention. I sat for hours just listening to rain fall on the roof. I walked into the woods not to count steps, but to say thank you for each one. One afternoon, I arranged black and white stones into a yin-yang shape outside my cabin. A local girl wandered by and asked, "What's that for?" I smiled. "To remind me," I said, "that light needs shadow to shine. And nothing lasts, not pain, not joy. But between them, there is peace." One full moon night, I opened a suitcase I hadn't touched since leaving the city. Inside were the old pieces of my identity. A silk tie. A polished nameplate. A certificate I once hung proudly in my office. A fountain pen that cost more than a month's rent. I laid them out carefully, like offerings to a past life. And I burned them. Slowly. Not out of anger, but because I was ready to be free. I whispered, "Thank you. You served me once. But I no longer need armor to exist. I want to live, bare and unhidden." As the fire danced, I watched something dissolve, not objects, but the old self I no longer needed. The next morning, I walked to the nearby beach. The waves were gentle. The sky was soft with gold and pink. I sat cross-legged, eyes closed, palms open, not meditating, not reaching for transcendence. Just breathing. Being. And then it happened. A weightless touch in my hand. I opened my eyes. A single green leaf. Fresh. Whole. Alive. I didn't know where it came from. Maybe the wind brought it. Or maybe the river had one last message for me. I stared at it for a long time, holding it like an answer I hadn't realized I'd been seeking. I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I had returned. I didn't achieve enlightenment. I didn't become a spiritual teacher. I didn't write a book or start a movement. I just learned to sit with myself and say, "This moment is enough." And now, when someone asks me, "Why did you leave it all behind?" I don't give long explanations. I simply say, "Because one day, the river whispered my name. And for the first time in my life, I listened."